I am going to start with the first lesson. I'm going to start with our 1514 module. I'm saying the focus of this module is knowledge content to language skills in English. I've written in red there that it is not on how to teach English. I'm not going to deal with you on how to teach English, the verbs. It is just for you to understand the how of the language. My next slide is, why do we need to study this module? Ladies and gentlemen, as a first-year student, this module is of high importance, or I can say it is invaluable to you because it will help you. You cannot do without this module, because when you go through this module, you'll be able to use the language. They will put you in a better position. English has got different aspects in its structures of the language, and the module will put you in a better position to develop critical language awareness and the relevant language skills that will enhance it throughout your undergraduate studies. I'm moving on to the fourth slide, the importance of language. Language is very important, as I've mentioned. Language is ultimately important because it is the primary means through which humans can communicate and interact with one another. Some linguistics go as far as to suggest that the acquisition for language skill is the primary advancement that enable our prehistoric ancestors to flourish and succeed over other hominid. Effective use of language helps us in interpersonal relationships at home, work, and even at play. Using language effectively also will improve your ability to be an effective public speaker. Right now, you might be asking yourself, why should we learn this language? Because we are busy right now with the language. We are communicating. And what is our means of communicating? Is the language. And we deal with the language of English, not any other language, but English. The question that can come to your mind again is, but why English? Because English is the language that we use for us to study. Most of the courses, most of the modules are done in English and are written out in English. Most of the books are written out in English. That is why it is so important that the language must be understood and must be used properly. There is no way that you can use English being a lawyer and you don't know the language that the lawyers are using. There is no way that you can be a doctor, a nurse, whatever, then you don't know the language that is used, or you cannot even interpret what they are saying. That is why English is very important. That is why English cannot be done away with. So that is the importance of language. What is language? I've titled this slide, What is Language? Language is what I'm doing right now. I'm using my voice, I'm using my hands, I'm using my ears, I'm using my body. If I was in class with you, looking at me, seeing all these things, you will understand that this is language. We gesture, it's language. We do signs, that is language. We have different sounds, that is language. We make use of symbols or symbols that are conceived as a means of communication of some kind and thought. We use language, that is language. Therefore, language is any formal system of gestures, signs, sounds, and symbols used or conceived as a means of communicating thought. Anything that comes into my mind If I want you to hear it or to know what I'm thinking, I am going to put it in a language, either gesturing or giving you a sign, or talking, giving you a sound like I am doing, and symbols used to conceive as a means of communicating. There is no way that you cannot use language in any way or any form. So it is important that you understand this. When you open your guide, your tutorial letter, your guide, the points that I'm touching are clearly outlined. They are very much clearly outlined in how to use it. And even the textbook by Bailey that is being prescribed to you, those textbooks, they clarify everything about a language. So please make sure that you go to this tutorial letters, you go to your guide, you go to your prescribed books, you will see what languages, because what I'm doing here, I am sort of summarizing everything that I want you to see as key points on what a language is. Then I've put on this signs. Can you see all those signs? The hands, different hands there, and they all have different signs. They have different signs. And these signs are used by people who cannot talk. This is their type of language. But when you look at the signs, this one here, when you look at the signs, you see 2 fingers pointing up. If you see somebody walking on the streets doing that, you interpret this in a different way. The same as this one. It's you interpret it in a different way. When you are in our townships, you see a person pointing up with his pointing finger. It tells you something, that this person is waiting for a taxi and the taxi must go somewhere. They understand this language, the language of signs, the language of people who cannot talk, but we use it in different ways. All the signs, I've just picked up a few, all the signs tells you what is happening in our lives. Maybe an upper hand like this one, an upper hand when I show my 5 fingers to you, I expect you to slap on me. We are talking by so doing. That's a language. That's a language. And when we do that, we know that we are communicating. We are expressing something. We are doing gesturing in a different way. And these signs, for the people who cannot talk, who are deaf and dumb, they use this language. They can write in it. Their writing is called Braille. They use it when they communicate, when they talk. I think you normally see they only have somebody who is showing the signs. For those who cannot hear, that is language, and that is very, very important. Why should we have it? I know in your application forms, there is somewhere where they ask you, are you disabled? When they ask you if you are disabled, you can disclose whether you are dumb or you cannot hear, or you disclose that you see partially or you cannot see at all. That will not make you not study. They ask this question so that they know and give you a proper attention or proper system, a proper way of learning, even the language. You need to have your language according to how you are disabled. That clause, ladies and gentlemen, is very important, because if you're going to tell the university when you are to sit for examination that you suffer, you cannot look at the computer or your phone where you want to write your exam, some letters are small. But when we check the application, you didn't disclose anything of the kind unless it came aim after your first, even if you need to make the university aware of the changes in your health. Now we have more signs that I have given, more language in a sign way. The yield, these are all the things that is in the roads. They talk to us. They cannot give. If you're a driver, you know that you've got to stop and check if there's any vehicle coming. When you see that red sign, do not enter. Again, you know that you've got to stop and not, and it says no. These are the signs that are used. They talk to us. This is part of language. This is also a language. Then look at the sign there, which is crossed, meaning no bicycles are allowed here. No parking, the one underneath. No parking is allowed. Children at play, you see that, oh, children are at play here. If I'm driving, I've got to be careful. Whatever I'm doing, I've got to know that there are children. The bicycle this side, it shows you that bicycles are allowed. The most common ones that we always use, the line, stop sign, and the go sign. We respect all the signs, and we just not respect them because we are told to do so. They have a meaning. Green is the color, but it talks to us. And the go word is written. The stop, the red, whenever and it says stop, don't go now. And the three colors, the red, the yellow or amber, and the green, they talk to us, and they give students some chance to ask questions. Repeat if there's any slide that they didn't understand. Thank you. What is language continuing? So it is different from how animals talk in many ways. Language has a lot of different qualities, but the most important ones are arbitrary, productive, creative, systematic, vocalic, social, not instinctive, and conventional. I was on this issue of language is a human thing. This module is not about how to teach English. This module is to give you the skill of using English. Why I brought the signs, because they are part of language and they are very important for you to know that it is a language. As I say, it is a human thing. So it is different from how animals talk. Animals talk in many ways that we don't understand. The same as animals don't understand how we talk and how we talk to them, because human beings can talk to animals as easy as all that. That is why they are able to train them. Language has a lot of different qualities, but the most important ones are that it is arbitrary, productive, creative, systematic, vocalic, social, not instinctive, and conventional. These things about language make it different from how animals talk. Some of the things might be part of how animals talk to each other, but they are not all of it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you do this module, you'll be able not to use a language that is inappropriate when you write, when you talk, when you address any issue in any module that you're studying. Can I give an example? Like when you write a message instead of saying, how are you, writing HOWAREYOU, you write HRU, the letters, only the letters. A person might not understand that. That is not a professional language. The way you say it, you say, how are you? But when you write only the first letters of what you are trying to say. That is not a proper language. As we go on, we will come to the real language, the slang, the standard, and so on. So language is, when you study language, when you study, you use a language that is appropriate, which is professional. You use a language that is more important to what you are studying. Because studying English, your language will be looking in the grammar. Journalism also will be looking in such issues. How is it able to put paragraph so that people should understand what I'm trying to say? Am I going to use the simplest language ever, or am I going to use slang? Slang is that language that we use in most of the time. We corrupt the language and use it our way instead of using it the way it is professionally. So your language is appropriate at all times. I want to move to this next slide so that we dwell into the real things that we want to deal with. Language is, from the beginning when I started, I said language, my sound is there, but my sound comes out with vocal symbols by saying science. How do I write science? And I symbol of a sign. That is why I was giving you those signs to say we interpret the signs in different ways, but it is those are the signs that are used by people who cannot hear but are able to can use their hands, their fingers, HR and U, instead of saying how are you, spelling it nicely and correctly and saying it. When you are writing anything at a higher institution, you are not allowed to use. It is not acceptable. There is no way that you can write a paragraph or write a sentence that is not understood. No lecturer will accept what you are saying or understand what you are saying, because you are the only one who's using those abbreviations or using those letters. When you talk when you use your WhatsApp, the WhatsApp language that is used, it's I don't know whether I can't even call it slang. I can't informal language. It's far from that. It's far from everything. Students are not allowed to use that, because now in a we've got to be professional. You have to use a professional language at all times. Now, when language, an organization of sounds, all the time you have been hearing it's an organization of sounds, of vocal symbols. Every symbol gives you a meaning. If you bring them like characteristic, that word gives, it's a combination of symbols. Read it out together, you read as characteristic. And that characteristic forms part of the language. When you vocalize it, you are going to say characteristics. Or characteristics. When you give it a sound, you can hear somebody saying character. It's from how you say it. Somebody. Somebody. But you know, I like the dictionary. The dictionary will always give you. I don't know whether those people are asking questions, Membata, or
correct.
Are they asking questions?
No, you can continue. Somebody is unmuted. Continue, Doc.
I thought they were asking questions.
No, there are no questions.
Okay. It is a sound produced by the mouth with the help of various organs of speech. Carry on. That is a message, and that is meaningful. The meaning out of that message is I can continue. I'm giving the green light to continue. That is, the sound is produced by the mouth with the help of various organs of speech to continue some meaningful. You have registered and you have opened your tutorial letters. You have seen that everything that I have is in your books, and you are going to just make sure that you understand how to use this you are studying. Now, I continue. It also means that speech is primary to writing. There is no way that a person will be able to write out the word characteristic without seeing that word and reading it out. You read the word, you say it, and you are able to write it. When you write it, what do? We concentrate on how you spell it. Because now is in your mouth, what is in your mind, you put it on paper. You want us to understand what you are saying. You want us to know what you are saying. Now, the problem comes when you write. Well, indicate to the lecturers that writing it's primary to speech. If you can write the word, it means you can use that word, because each and every word has its own meaning. The letter C. The letter C can go a long way. I can take the letter C, write characteristic. Take the letter C and write different ways, different names, whatever. Cherry, it says, I say cherry, but cherry starts with a C, but characteristic starts with a C. Cause starts with a C. But when you look at those words that I've just mentioned, they use one letter. You attach the C with other letters, as you mentioned. I say speech is primary to writing. From the speech. Now you can ask yourself, where do I get this speech from? Every person can speak. You can speak in your language, different languages. You can speak different languages being alone. There is a language that is in what we can talk about. Now, when we speak from our speech, this speech that comes into which we are born with or grow up with, the language, different language. I come to school speaking Zulu or speaking Setswana, and now English is introduced. primary school, preschool, wherever, English is introduced. Now, when English is introduced, what is happening with me? I have the language that I had when I grew up, till I'm 3 years, 5 years. Now, I'm at school, I hear English. To what I know, with what I hear, I'm told this is a cup, CUP, but I know this container that I'm told is a cup. I know it to be libekere, or I know it to OP. I know it to be a mug or something sakunwela. You know, it is not libekere or it's not kopi, it's a cup in English. In your language, in a cup. Now, what is happening in my mind? I have to learn that, oh, cup is the same thing that I call kopi. So when I'm writing, when I try to write the sentence, what comes into my mind is my language. That is going to disturb me to understand English. My language is going to be the primary one that comes up. Language is going to be the one that says, the teacher says, what can you do with this cup, with a cup, showing you the cup. You have to tell the teacher what you can do with a cup, but the primary language in your mind is the one learning to use the other language, which is English, so that you can write the same sentence that is in your mind. You've got now in English. Hence, we always have a paragraph, or we try to communicate professionally. We find ourselves translating to English, which is not proper. One can easily see this is not proper English. It is taken verbatim as is from your language to English. Now, we are trying to say to you, you are not supposed to do that. Learn all these things, all this grammar in English should be filled in with enough vocabulary of English. Your mind filled in with vocabulary that you can use when you write assignments, when you write paragraphs. Read, you must be able to say grammatically in English, they don't say this, they say that. As we go on with our lesson, all this will be cleared up when I talk about grammatical issues. How do you see that, oh, this is wrong? How is my sentence right or wrong? So every time when you look at it, you say, sentence is correct here, or my sentence is not right here. What can I do? Then you make sure that you don't just take your language, your primary language, and try to make it an English language. You use English as is. So what paper you get written in English when you read, you give yourself enough vocabulary. So you vocabulary can be very problematic if you think in your language, and that is going to give you a good paragraph or a good essay or a good argumentative writing. That is why you have to know that English is important, because it carries all the say 97% of their modules are done in English. There are several languages because they are spoken. Yes. Now, languages are spoken, different languages in our country, languages that can be used, meaning that people can communicate in any of these languages wherever they are, at school, when they play, wherever they are, any language can be used. But I've never seen this being practical, starting from Parliament, in the courts. I've never seen language expected. On paper, the country says we can use 11 or 12 languages, but only here and there. In our minds, that is why when you go to court, there are always interpreters. I can speak in my vendor language when I'm standing there in interpreter. The interpreter must be able to hear my language and translate or put it back to the judges or to the magistrate in English. And it's very important. It should not change the meaning of what I am saying. Maybe some of you will one day be interpreters. Language is important because whatever I am saying should not be misunderstood or misinterpreted. It must be as it must be exactly as I am saying it. Now, when we say you need to learn English, you need to understand how of using these words, how these words are combined and gives you meaning. It's very important to know that you don't misinterpret whatever you say. At this stage, maybe more than 1 or 2 languages. Some can speak 3 languages. Some can. There are those who are blessed who can speak 10 languages or 5 languages, where they are, where they grew up, and so on. Now, when you speak several languages, you are sure that you don't mix them. You make sure that what you are saying in Xhosa, saying it exactly the same in Zulu or in Venda or in Afrikaans. It should be exactly the same. The interpretation should be the same. But when it comes to English and you want to use the same word or the same line, the same sentence, you're expected to put it in line. You are expected to put it in line with what is expected from the English. You're supposed to interpret it exactly that way. That is why I'm giving an example of interpreters in court or interpreters anywhere where a person doesn't mean that interpretation should be only in football. You find that they are speaking French and the others are speaking Swahili. Different languages, they can't hear each other. But when they gesture, that's another language of understanding each other. When to each other, they are able to can say, I am saying this. I am saying put the ball in the corner, or I am saying so. So interpreting that, maybe somebody, if that person knows both languages thoroughly, it's easy for this person to interpret. And to pause and ask questions and wait for questions again. Okay, continuing on there are several languages because they are spoken. And I was still stressing on the point that language is very important. and we have different languages, different areas, different places. I gave an example of footballers, the French playing against the Swahili people, how they can communicate, they gesture. How can they, or they have an interpreter. I gave an example of the courts, that there's always somebody who is interpreting for someone to hear what the magistrate is saying, or for the magistrate to hear what the person is saying. So that's very, very important. Now, my issue on this one of different languages is the issue of the language being when you English, your language comes up. When you are trying to say something in English, your language comes up. Every time, instead of writing, hello? Are you asking? Okay, I'm continuing. Every time when you try to speak in English, your language, or I can say your mother tongue, we call it mother tongue, your mother tongue comes up. If you're speaking Xhosa, you try speaking English Xhosa. Please switch off your mic. Please switch off your mic. Thank you. Then every time when you try to speak your mother tongue, it's a deterrent. Now, we try to say in this module, guard against that. That is why you need to learn the characteristic features and functions and forms of English. They are very important to you. They are very important to any person who's studying anything, because everything that we study is in English. UNISA teaches in English. I want to mention this earlier, that any faculty, each and every faculty has its own language in different ways. Like a lawyer. A lawyer has got the language are there. Because the terms are different. Hence, you need to know how to write. I sometimes think that people who are writing this WhatsApp language is out of frustration, not knowing what to write, how to put it. Now, because they've got it in their mind that with how are you, that you write H, R, and U. That's what is in the mind. Because when I say how are you, that's what you hear. Now you're going to put those letters as if, which is not a language. Nobody understands what you are trying to say, unless your fellow friends, they understand what you are trying to say, and they will respond accordingly. But you are not using that. Start practicing now. When you communicate in your groups, the WhatsApp language, you can see how you need to communicate. They don't use abbreviations. They talk to you properly, that you've got to do this, you've got to submit your assignment on such a day. Everything is in. I've titled that characteristics, features, functions, and forms, and I've been touching on all of those, the three of them, the forms of the C that can be used in different ways. You can use a C in different, you can write anything starting with the letter C. And you can use this C also in some places, in some languages where they use a C, but pronouncing it differently. For instance, is used in that is why I say you've got that your mother tongue should not deter you from trying to say what you want to say in English. My next point, music are not languages. We are all aware that music comes from instruments. Music comes from vocal cords. Music comes from any sound that makes sense. It's music. If I tap on the table like this and I start moving my hand and tapping my table like this, there's a sound that is going out. Now you ask yourself, what is the sound? Is this sound for me to dance? Is it a drum or what is it? But there is this move because of the sound that is being made. And this sound is a language because it tells people to shake. It's a drum that has been hit by a hand, or you have the drumsticks that you hit the drum, but it makes people to dance and do whatever. It's music. And the sound is done by the drums. So you find that music take the side of a language that we use at all times. Any person who's a musician uses language. Before this person can sing, there is the sound of instruments. Before this person can sometimes with just the hands, clapping their hands like this, they are doing what they are stressing much that. Language is all over. We cannot survive. We cannot go on without language. Because even when I look at you, my eyes will tell you that I'm happy with what you are doing, or I am not happy with what you are doing. So that is why we are always aware of the language that we are using. Now, singing uses vocal cords, vocal sound. And singing starts from the language, because before you sing that sound, you think about it. You start with the language. And when you put it down to write that song, to write the words that you are thinking, music, it's from the language. It's from what you have been thinking. It is from what you want to us with vocal sound. Now, music and vocal sound are the same. When I talk, sometimes I can talk like a person. There are people who there are people who are please switch off your mics.
Come on, man.
Thank you. Thank you. There are people who pray. There are people who pray like they're talking, normal talking. And some sing. Just to send an example, to the Roman Catholic Church, the priest is praying, talking, but this person, when you go there for the first time, you'll think that this person is singing. But to them, he is praying, he is talking, using combined as one and end up giving you what language is systematic verbal symbolism. The L of a language, it's a symbol. And when you see L, just like I've made an example of a C, you see L, you say, okay, language, what is language? And can you see how it is spelled? I've given all the symbols when I started because I knew that I'll come to this to try and show you that you understand why I say language symbolism. You use symbols for language when you talk. When you write, you use the same. When you sing, you use the same symbols. When whatever you're doing, language does that for you at all times, because there's no way language, it's only well arranged. The verbs, the sounds are well arranged. Then we come to Naomi. What is Naomi? Naomi is a name. I call it a name, but how is it arranged? How is it arranged? I can have Naomi as a name, and next to now I have a symbol of a girl. I have a symbol of a girl. So I verbalize the name to a symbol of next to Naomi is a girl. I'm making you aware that this name is a girl's name, Naomi. Now, the symbol tells you the arrangement of the letters also are taken into account that, oh, Naomi, you see that, you spell that, and you symbolize what is there and what is to be interpreted. I said, mother tongue, the language you grew up with, is key in your mind. Now you want to replace it with another language. You are not actually replacing your language with English. What you are doing, you just want to understand another language on top of what you know. Not replace. Yes, it sounds like it's replaced. As I'm talking, I'm just fluent. I'm not thinking in my language. I'm just talking. I'm just talking in English. It's like I've replaced my mother tongue. No, I didn't replace my mother tongue. What I'm saying, I read in English. I read the books in English. Now, they come to me, the vocabulary comes to me as if I've replaced my mother tongue with English. That's how it should be when you write English, when you speak in English, when you communicate in any way in English. Musicians uses slang when some of them, when they sing, when they try to convey a message, they use most of the time slang repetitively. Now you'll think that they got this from somewhere. Sometimes I always think when trying to interpret what they are doing, what they are saying, I sometimes think it's because they don't have enough words. To me, they don't have enough words. Now they repeat one and the same thing all the time. The only difference that the instruments, the instrument changes. They communicate to me say through their instruments, but the words that they are using, it's just repetitive, or they don't. They use slang. If you can sit maybe and ask this person, what were you trying to say with this line? You'll find that this person doesn't even know or cannot say what he or she was trying to say with the language. There is a lot of language that will go out there being as noisy as you can, as they can, because the vocal sounds are loud, the instruments are loud, but the meaning of the words are totally out. You don't hear what this person is saying, but because what we want in music, what is it why do we listen to music? We listen to music because we enjoy the sound, first of all. Another thing, we enjoy the message in the music. We enjoy what this person is trying to convey to us. So we want to listen. Now, if there's too much vocal sounds, that doesn't make sense. The language is corrupted. We cannot hear what the message of the music is, or what is this person trying to send to us. Just like as I've been talking right now, I'm trying to convey to you the importance of language. I'm trying to convey to you that make sure that you understand the language and how to use it when you write, as a journalist, as a magistrate, as a lawyer, as an English teacher, how to write it so that you understand yourself, because language is there to be understood. If I want to listen to you, I have to understand what you are saying. So music does that to us. But remember that music is language. Music is also not language. If one word is used, then there's no language. It's just one word. Maybe this person has taught you just one word. So the symbols that they're supposed to be systematic. That's what brought me to this music and singing. There's the language is static. It must not just be words hanging all over, like the HR and symbol U. Those are just I don't know what they stand for. They can stand for anything. They can stand for whatever I can put under the H. Happy. I can, instead of, you are trying to say how, and I'm saying for this H, I can say happy. And you are going to say, no, man, I didn't say happy. I was saying how. Then the R, then I can say or read, because it starts with the R. And you want to say to me, no, I was saying R, meaning how R, the A-R-E. That is why you've got to be very, very careful that now, at this stage, you are not going to understand you. Nobody's going to give you marks if you are writing something that is not understood. Hence, you've got to use your symbols, symbol of language, properly so that you use it. Sounds, words, and phrases which are arranged in certain ways to make sentences. Language is sentences. The gentleman said, we cannot hear you if you could move. That line asks me to move, to make me aware that you cannot hear me. Can you say that it makes use of verbal elements such as sounds? Those words, they place them there, move to eyes. It is a verbal element. The verbal elements move to another place or move around so that we can hear, because of this element, the sound. Because of the sound. So the verbal elements of the language are there to be understood. If we don't understand them, we are not going to respond to your request or to understand what you want to say. You've got to arrange them. I just gave up now that was done or was said to me, that is why the sound is very important. The sound of it, using language, we cannot hear. if you write that down, but if you write it down, we cannot hear you. Then you write W, C, H, because it doesn't make sense. There are no verbs there that makes me to understand what you are trying to say. You have to show in full. Flavor of the sound is able to can communicate there or asking. That's how language works. That's how it is. And the words are very important. I cannot stress this. I will refer you to this WhatsApp irritating language that is used all over, and aware that it is not a language, it is something else. It doesn't matter, we are talking to your friends, we are talking to speak in sound. It should make sense. Your sounds should make sense. Yours should also, then your your phrase should also make sense, to make senses. The sentence, we cannot hear you. Now, if it's, please try to a different corner so that we can hear you. The phrase there gives sense, because the sentence is arranged in a certain way. Don't say you don't know to use sentences, but are you able to use them properly? Are you able to use them to your needs? Because your needs are what you are studying, which I don't know. Sounds which can be produced by the organs of speech. Organs of speech. We talk about our lips, we talk about our tongue, we talk about our teeth, everything that is the old less. My S will not be the S that you are used to, you grow up hearing. It's going to be something disturbed like then that sound is, it doesn't go. Other organ of speech is disturbed. If the sound will never go out freely because I don't have enough air to take it out. I will not be able to produce the sound that is expected because my lungs are disturbed, or they are not doing what they are supposed to do. If my tongue is chopped, I cannot talk, because in rounding off the sounds, the tongue plays a big role in saying sounds that somebody can hear or could hear. You know, the sounds with the tongue. We sometimes say when people talk, we hear them vocally, we can hear them. But when they say R, some roll the tongue, they say R. So you can hear, if you're not used to, you're South African like me, you don't know this person is rolling the R instead of, you're used to R. But now when they talk, the English people talk from Australia, from England, they talk differently, but it's English from Australia, from England, from America. Their English is different from the English that is spoken in America, wherever. So it is the sounds that makes up a language from the speech organs. We say different sounds. We say different. I'm giving the sound R. R is said in many, many different. Some people, instead of saying R, in South Sotho, they are never able to pronounce R. They say R. People who are not South Sothos, they pronounce R from sound. We come to understand and know that they are not able to can say R. They say R. So it's a different thing. And this R thing, it happens in all of us different talking like that, not being able to pronounce an R. So these are the type of sounds that I making you aware through your tutorial letters. That Bailey textbook carries everything, and he explains everything very, very clearly as to why is language important, why characteristics of language are to be taken into account, the functions and the forms of a language. Any question so far? Let me drink some water, please. Thank you. Recapping of the lesson. The importance of this module. The language, because it is important for you to understand the sound, how the language is, this one, the focus, the knowledge, that it is not, I'm not going to get into how to teach English. When you are studying English as a module, or maybe you are a teacher, you want to specialize in English, you will learn in English how to English. Why do we study this module? I think I have already clarified that the module is to be put in a better position so that when you study, you should know that where do I put grammatically, where do I use the he and the he, where the him and the his and all those, you should know where to put them in a language so that you can properly. If you miss to understand that, you cannot say we have 2 dogs. That sentence, we have 2 dogs at home. You cannot say we have 2 dogs at home and leave the S out. And by that time, you don't see that something is not right here. Or you go on to say, Alfred is talk. You cannot use that. Alfred is a man or a boy. The name of a man or a boy. He stands for a boy or a man. Talking to Sabrina. Sabrina is a girl. He is talking to her. Can you hear the he, the her? You need to learn on television, on stages, wherever, and the he, the him, the her, all those are mixed up. Then let me not say people. We defend this by saying saying, by the way, English is not our language. When you ask yourself, why is this person saying this instead of this? You pinpoint that by saying English is not our language. To make things and not saying the right things, and you defend. Then summary of what language is. I've gone in detail of what a language is. You understand in sound, in signs, in vocals. You understand what a language is, and say English is not my language. English will be your language if you're a student, because it will be a language that you are working with. If you want to be a journalist, how are you going to be writing those articles you write in? And still, even if it's in your language, of the language needs to make sense. Every language has got its characteristics. Now, characteristics with it in has got different types. Cannot take chances on that. You cannot say you don't understand this. I've given an example that you cannot say Alfred and say she as you continue. You cannot say Sabrina and say he as you continue. You've got to know where, when to use he, where to use she, where to use him, when to use her. You've got to know when to use in, when to use those things to write properly. You want to see yourself one day being, your language must be perfect so that you don't depend on the, the systems today. We are giving you the English that is used in England, and we are using that you are not using the right language. That's very important. And the other one, the characteristics of language, guard against mother tongue interfering with your English language. Guard against that. It is very not to think in your language and translate. It doesn't make sense. Translation is actually not always the same. You must, sometimes when you watch this, you'll see that people are trying to interpret, and they say, when this person tries to interpret, especially the radio, the radio people, they'll try to interpret the president's speech to Sesotho or Setswana. You hear something that you ask yourself, this language means this, but the president didn't say this. That's what I'm talking about, the characteristic of a language. You must be able to hear the language that is right and the language that is not right. I gave an example of the interpreter in court, that you've got to be saying what this person is saying. Sometimes when the interpreter is saying wrong things, say I'm standing there, I'm saying a sentence in my language, and the interpreter is trying to tell the magistrate, I will end up saying, I didn't say that, I am saying this. Now you are helping the interpreter. That is why you've got to be very careful that when you go through that and you want to be that, you know what you are saying, you know what you are doing. The functions of a language. I went about different instruments, different sounds, different ways of communications. You communicate like, those symbols, the road symbols, the deaf and dumb symbols, sign language. And I showed you that they can mean something else. They can mean different things. So you've got to be careful that this sign can mean this. It's only that the road signs are straightforward. They cannot mean two things at the same time. But the language signs can mean different things. Like I've given an example of a finger pointing up, a hand with a pointing finger pointing up, saying, I'm going somewhere. They use this symbol, and the taxi driver will quickly know that this person goes wherever, to town or to another section and so on. They use all different kinds of symbols, but these are language symbols for people who are deaf and dumb. They are symbols of language. They mean different things. They don't mean 1, 2, 3 only. They mean A, B, C, D, and so on. All the signs, they mean different languages. Hence, I said they can mean a lot. The one thing that I maybe didn't touch in the forms of language, the forms of language are different. We can use different language with abbreviations, which are very dangerous, because abbreviations also, just like the in thing of WhatsApp language, can mean different things, because an abbreviation, say ANC, let me take a common one. ANC means African National Congress. But ANC at the hospital means what? Antenatal something, antenatal whatever. It has got a different meaning. You go to other places, you see the national emblems. They mean different things because it's their different form of language. So we've got to be careful when we use this abbreviations, that whatever you are saying, when you write, you are not just going to put the abbreviation, shortened word, before you can give me the full name of what you are trying to say. When we say SP, SP can stand for senior face. SP can stand for social process. SP can stand for anything that you can think of. Now, if you use that, it means a person should read the whole sentence or the whole paragraph to understand what you are trying to say. What is your form of language you are trying to say, so that I should understand, I should make sure that I understand what you are trying to say. I wish to make you aware that when you go to your tutorial letter, Unit 1, when you go to Bailey, that is Chapter 1, you will find that everything that we discussed tonight is there. And then when you go there, you'll be going deeper to understand, or because now I've given you the pros and cons of what is covered in those units, then you are just going to make sure that you understand, or you dwell deeper to make your mind clear and be sure that you understand the importance of language. You know that the language has got characteristics. You know that the language has got forms. You know that a language has got functions. That's very important. the functions of a language. Hence, in your different modules, what are the functions of this language that you are studying? If you are studying, I've been making an example of journalism, I've been making an example of law, those who are doing nursing, or different ways, teachers and so on. What is the function of the language that you are reading there? Then this module, the tutorial letter and the guide, is going to help you to understand when you answer your assignments as to how to structure, how to go about showing that you understand what you are writing. You are not confusing the male name with a female verb or the plural and the singular. You are not confusing those things. You are clear about them, and you are not going to end up being a scholar that says, by the way, English is not my language. English is not your language. We might not pronounce it like the people in England, Australia, and so on, but the structure, the functions, the forms of our language should be correct. It must be correct. It doesn't matter whether I'm saying it like the people in England or not, like the R that I've given you, that some will say R, some will say R. You struggle, but when you read, this person writes R the same way that you are writing it. It is the function of the language. That is why you've got to know it in totality. Before I explain what will be happening tomorrow, can I ask if there are any questions, clarity that you need to get, that I need to get, I'm sorry. Oh, we are all quiet. It means we are fine. I think I made a mistake by leaving more time because I thought I'll get so many questions, but I thought I'm going to get loads and loads of questions now. It seems the students are clear. They know what they are studying and they know what they will be studying.
Sorry,
Tomorrow.
Doc. So there are
Yes,
two hands, Baba Law and Makhetwa. Seems they've got questions. Over to
I'm
you,
ready.
Baba Law.
I'm listening.
Baba Law, you've raised your
I
hand.
see.
No, I see the slide now. I didn't see slide 10, but I see it now. Thank you.
Okay, because I see there, you need me to go to slide 10. Is that the one you're talking about, Mukhetwa? Mukhetwa?
Yes, it is, ma'am.
Do you see
It
slide
was
10?
just, yes, I see it
Okay.
now, and I've taken note of it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Is there a hand again? Number 2 hand?
Yes, there's another hand from Kaba.
Yes.
Hi, ma'am.
I'm listening. Yes.
I would like to ask, so sometimes I experience the problem of my grammar. Like I'll find myself that my grammar is not so good. Sometimes it's not me that will find out, but the person who will read, let's say maybe I'm writing an essay. So like how do I navigate on fixing my grammar when I'm writing my English?
Tomorrow, as I say, we are going to go into grammar. Just to help you for now that you start. When you go to your guide, they are clarifying the grammatical aspects that you can deal with. I've just given a simple one that is very common, the he, she, his, and him.
Yes.
And the to those units, tomorrow I'll give you exactly what pages, because know that I'll give you the pages. See the difference. What is a verb? What is an adverb? What is plural? Okay, what is they clarify them very, very, very well. Your grammar will always wrong because your grammar is wrong. Instead of saying I am walking towards the office, then you say I'm walk towards, or I'm walk to office. That sentence is wrong. I'm walk to office. Instead of I'm there, I'm walking. What is walking? Or I walked in the past. You added the ed. I walked, to the office. I walked to the office. I saw this. I was talking to so and so. You should know where the ing fits and what is it, and you should know where the ed fits. So that, but let us do it tomorrow. Let us do it tomorrow to show you to give you exactly the pages where you could find this grammatical issues where you can put yourself. I think I'll quickly find, yes. Like here, I find the prepositions. They are on page 66 of the guide. You go to from page, actually this whole unit, that teaching the Concord from page, from page, yes, actually it's unit 1. That's where you find defining a language. That's where you find all this languages where they are explaining when to use this, when to use that. An example here that they have given, like black is beautiful. What black? What are we talking about here? This sentence is very vague to me. Black is beautiful. What is black? But when you talk in a context, you see me wearing all black, and the black don't sit so well on me. Then you say, black is beautiful. It's okay. Or see, or you are saying it's correct. But when you see somebody who's dark in complexion and you say black is beautiful, what does that mean? What do you mean under that context? Can you see that it's a wrong context and you are saying it to somebody? So those are the things that you need as your grammar. If you don't know singular and plural, the present tense, the past tense, and you don't know how to use it. Hey, a boy run. That sentence is wrong. But when you say a boy runs, it's good English. But when you say I run as a singular person, that's the singular person. It's a present tense. You put it in a sentence just like that. So when you write a sentence, you must always check yourself if the sentence along with, first of all, is it the first person you are writing on, the third, the second, and so on? Is it an active sentence or a passive sentence? Is it present or past? Is everything in singular or is everything in plural? Is everything the gender? This one is a big problem even to people who are educated. the gender, how to use he, her, him, his, her, and hers, where, and so on. You know, that is a problem. Now, this guide gives you all of that. If you can just pay attention, and you'll be able to see that it can be difficult but easy. Like prince, a woman is called princess. Ta, a woman is called actress. Waiter, a woman is called waitress. Emperor, empress. Can you see that? You easily add them like that. You add the E-double-S, E-double-S, E-double-S. But in some sentences, I have a goat. Then I want to know, the goat, is it a he goat, or it sounds like it's not correct, because when you talk about she, we talk about humans, but now it's an animal. Say she goat, it's a she goat, or it's a he goat. Those are the little things. They look very small, but you need to understand them. I don't know whether I've answered your problem, answered your question, but if I did not, it's fine. You can still continue tomorrow with it. Thank you.
No, ma'am,
If you're
thank you
happy.
so much. You have answered my question. And last small question.
Mhm.
For pronunciation. So how do I learn? For example, they are, sorry?
I'm not talking, I'm listening.
Oh, okay. So there are words that sometimes you are not able to pronounce it properly. As much as, yes, I know that English is not our mother tongue, but you'll find there is a word that you cannot pronounce like correct, you know. So how do you learn to pronounce the words like right?
Me, as being old school, you know, the Oxford Dictionary, when you open it and see how to write, it gives you how to write the word, it gives you the meaning of the word, and it ends up showing you phonetically how to pronounce the word. It shows you, because when you go to Google, don't go to Google for English most of the time. Go.
Okay.
You know, the dictionary is the best book that will teach you how to pronounce. When you look at the word word, they will tell you what does it mean, and underneath you see that phonetical. I think you did this in metric, you know, phonetics. You see that phonetical writing, how to pronounce the word, and then it's beautiful. You come to learn how to pronounce. I think the dictionary, to me, can be the only instrument that will teach you to pronounce. Because when you listen to Google, even when you go to Google, sometimes they give you the phonetic way of pronouncing a word. But when you listen to that lady, madam, saying the word, sometimes it's very difficult. So I don't encourage you to do that. I encourage you to use the dictionary and read it yourself, and not anybody else. You do that sound yourself and nobody else. Okay?
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Try that for these few days. Try that for these few days. Take a simple Oxford Dictionary or student companion. Where are those books? Student companion, or you go to. There are so many books that you can use to pronounce English.
I have a problem relating to paraphrasing. Sorry. I don't know whether like the conjunction or those words that joined a sentence, because they don't normally make a sense to me or the person reading what I've written.
Okay. I've just said tomorrow we'll be dealing with the fundamental grammatical concepts necessary. A conjunction is a joining word. I want to go to school, but I am tired. I want to go to school, but I am tired. I'm not talking to either you or your friend. That's a conjunction. It's a conjunction. So, as I've been explaining to the student who asked this question earlier, that grammar is there in your unit 1, in your book, in your tutorial letter, your guide. You will find that there are questions there. And I saw a question, I don't know where is it now, that where can I, the pronunciation, I don't know whether it's the one that I have answered. So tomorrow, when we dwell into our second lesson, we'll be busy with the fundamental grammatical concepts necessary in language usage. Particularly here, we will be talking about the English language. Though any language or every language has got grammatical concepts, but we are going to delve on the English language. I know I didn't answer you. I didn't clarify what conjunctions is or how to use a conjunction, but we will deal with it. Grammatically, you'll know where to find it and where to get that. I see that there are books that have been, yes, can you see the English handbook, the English handbook, the English handbook for those who want to learn proper English and how to write. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow, please, at 6 o'clock.